All right, shout outs. So first shout out goes to Skip. Thank you for making sure I had him. And of course, shout out to Sylvia and Elizabeth for when I didn't have him and providing me with an alternate. That was very helpful. Elizabeth and I have had many great discussions about how helpful it is to have one around. Shout out to my roomie for being my roomie and knocking on my door every morning and telling me he was going for breakfast, and I thought, yeah, so I should probably get out of bed then. And for hosting the readings, it's been really great. I noticed that the teachers meeting is at the same time as the readings today, so if you have to go to the teachers meeting, that's amazing. It's a great work, and we appreciate all the work that the teachers have done all week, and the number of people that have come up to me and said they heard all about my classes and they can't wait to see the recordings. So we're really grateful for the what they're giving up to do that work, and that's amazing. I know what they have to go through to get vetted to do the classes with the kids, and we're so appreciative of all that work, and the parents that there's this thing called a vacation, right? And when you're a parent, you take your job with you when you go on vacation because you take your kids with you, and it's amazing the work of parents. So we appreciate everything that the parents and the teachers do. It's so important that we have more generations coming up. And if you ever look at the health of an ecclesia, they say you can measure the health of an ecclesia by its Sunday school. So we appreciate all the things that we do, but we still hope we get some people out for readings. Yesterday, when I walked into the readings, everybody that was there yelled out, 14! But then we had some more people come in after, but I don't think we made it to 21, so it doesn't matter. Everyone is important, and we're so happy for everyone that comes. And we had some amazing discussion. We have an hour to get through 3 readings, as if that's the goal. But the first reading was the Last Supper, betrayal, denial, and what an amazing chapter. And we spent 45 minutes on one chapter. And then we had to read about David and Bathsheba after that. So it was quite the readings. So thanks to everyone that's been coming out, and just a shout out to all the other people that have been doing all sorts of different things, and organizing the volleyball, and I brought in Canada we call them running shoes. Those are sneakers. It's kind of easy to figure out though, right? Running shoes. Sneakers are a little bit harder to figure out what that could mean if you're not from the United States, but so no one knows you're playing volleyball. I never used my sneakers. I brought swimming trunks and a towel, never used those, so much to do here and so much to experience. I think we need another week, right? So it's been an amazing time. And I could do so many more shouts, but I want to do a hands up thing. Hands up if I have yet to speak to you this week. Hi, I'm Gord. I'll catch you later, okay? Make sure you talk to me, all right? Okay, good. All right, well, I have one day, one left, so I'm doing pretty good. All right, let's talk about love and compassion. So here's our agenda for this morning. We're going to talk about God power. We're going to talk about compassion. Well, that makes sense. We're going to talk about why does Jesus heal people? Objections, 3 objections and 3 reasons. How can we be compassionate? And then our conclusion for the whole week. So God power. Who gets the reference? All right, so that's the Infinity Gauntlet with the Infinity Gems on it from the Marvel Universe, Thanos. All right, God power. So the story is Thanos decided that there were just too many people in the universe. So we put together this magical gauntlet with these magical gems in it, and then with one snap of his fingers, anything he thought would happen. And his thought was he wanted to reduce the population of the universe by half because he felt that the universe would be better if it wasn't so crowded. So that's what he did. He got rid of half of the people in the universe with a snap of his fingers. That is the definition of God power. Now, Thanos is an imaginary character in the universe, and there's a reason why people write superhero comics. You might think of comics as childish, but the very sophisticated, very intelligent people that write comics are not children, and they know exactly what they're doing. I saw a thing in the recent events, which is interesting, and the question was, what if there were no Jews? What if there were no Jews? What if all the Jews had been exterminated? And then it listed a bunch of things that we wouldn't have if there were no Jews. Like, well, Einstein was Jewish. Think about that. You wouldn't have a cell phone. We wouldn't have satellites. All right. We wouldn't have Indiana Jones because Harrison Ford is also Jewish. We wouldn't have this guy because Stan Lee, who created Spider-Man, was also Jewish. So it was an interesting thing if there were no Jewish people. That's a little bit of an aside. But so I want you to take out a piece of paper or something you can write on, and I want you to answer this question. If you could have any superpower, any God power, what would it be? So I want you to write this down because you're going to need it later. Write it down. Etch it into your brain if you don't have anything to write on. If you have a cell phone, you can open something that you can write on. If you could have any superpower, what would you choose? We're going to come back to this, so you need to have your answer ready. If you could have any superpower in the world, use your imagination. What would you choose? I'm hoping nobody writes down that you could snap your finger and eliminate half the population of the world. I really hope that's not what you want your superpower to be, but it's up to you. You decide for yourself. If you had God power, what would your power be? All right? So, compassion. We mentioned this word earlier, my favorite word for love. Splanknistomai. Hard for me. This when Brother Mark asked me to read a Greek word, I was very grateful that he chose one that he knew I would be able to read. I'm glad he didn't put this one up there. When I'm reading it, I'll be honest, I'm reading the one in Roman letters, not the one in Greek letters. I can read the Greek letters, but the longer the word, the harder it is. That's a hard word. It's a beautiful word, though. It's an absolutely beautiful word. The noun, the first one there, occurs 12 times in the New Testament. And it's either translated have compassion or be moved with compassion in the King James Version. And the verb splanknon, a little bit easier. A little bit weirder though, it's translated bowels 9 times, although usually used in that metaphorical sense. Inward affection and tender mercy with the other word that we looked at briefly at the end of the first class, eleos, which means mercy. So the tender part is the splanknon. So put them together. Splanknon eleos, and you have tender mercy. Sounds like a really nice, beautiful word. So that's a lovely word, no pun intended. No pun intended, I should say. It's a very beautiful word, and we'll look at how it's used. So this word, the the verb, have compassion. Did I get them backwards? That's the verb. Have compassion or be moved with compassion. So 9 times out of 12, it's used to refer to Jesus' reaction to people. Right? I know we're familiar with that, right? Jesus moved with compassion, or Jesus was moved with compassion. 9 times, that's how this, out of 12, 9 times, that's how it's used to describe Jesus' reaction to the people that were around him, or to a single person sometimes. The other 3 times it's used by Jesus in his parables. And here are the 3 parables where Jesus uses this word. the Good Samaritan who was moved with compassion when he saw the person in need. He uses it of the merciful Lord that forgave the unforgiving servant. He had compassion for him. And the third time is Jesus uses it to describe the reaction of the father of the prodigal son when he saw his son coming home. This is the best love word in the Bible. It is the word that is only used of or by Jesus. The only one. So here's one of the verses. I'm not going to go through all 12 of them, but this is typical of the 9 times when it's used to describe Jesus' reaction. When he saw the crowds, this is Matthew 9:36. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. It's describing our Lord's inner feelings of how he felt when he saw his people that were in need. What an amazing insight into the mind of Jesus. This word. He had compassion for them because they were sheep without a shepherd. So then we ask the question, why did Jesus heal people? And I'm sure most of you are, well, because he had compassion. We've already answered the question. Why is there a question? And the weird part about it is, why does it say 3 objections? What could a possible objection to be to Jesus healing people? But we have 3 objections to Jesus healing people. If Jesus had this power to heal people, opposite of what Thanos did, right? Thanos snapped his fingers and eliminated half the population of the universe. Why didn't Jesus just snap his fingers and make everyone better? Does anyone here doubt that Jesus had that kind of power? Does anyone doubt that he could have done that? He didn't need to gather 5 magical gems and stick them into a gauntlet. How did he heal people? Think about all the different ways. And it's like he seems to heal, well, the ones that we have described in detail. He seems to heal people each time he does something different. And there's one phrase that just comes to my mind. Someone said this to Jesus. He said, with a word, you can heal someone. He didn't even have to snap his fingers. With a word. And he did that on occasion. Can you think of 2 words that Jesus said that healed someone? They're not English, but we all know them. Talitha Kumi. Talitha Kumi. Little girl, I say unto you, arise, in English. Talitha Kumi. I'll tell you a funny story about Talitha Kumi. There's she was a child. Now she's a lovely sister in Denver, but years ago she was a small child living in Michigan. And I was sitting with some of my friends back in the day, and she was sitting in front of me and on the floor because she was little. And there was a prayer, and everyone else got up, but Talitha stayed sitting down. And one of the guys I was standing next to leans forward and goes, Talitha Kumi. Little girl, I say unto you, arise. Her name was Talitha. So it was really cute. Jesus used those words. What was wrong with Talitha? Well, not Talitha. Her name wasn't Talitha. What was wrong with the little girl? She was dead. Right? That's pretty bad. Didn't stop Jesus. That's God power. Took a little girl that was already dead, Wasn't even concerned. Didn't bother him at all. Not emotionally, it bothered him. But in terms of power, it didn't bother him. It's like, okay, so whatever, she's dead, no problem, I got this. Wow, that's power. And what did he use it for? To bring a little girl back from the dead. That's compassion. Why didn't he just heal everyone? Well, they're just going to die anyways. Every single person, and we can't even count the number. Every single person that Jesus brought back to life, healed from leprosy, healed from blindness, healed from mental illness. The list goes on. Every one of them died. Why did he bother? Why heal them and then just allow them to die again? Snap of the fingers. Give everyone immortality. Why didn't he do that? Why did he just let them die? He didn't heal everyone, and after he healed them, he raised them back to mortality. You ever thought about this? Where did Lazarus go when he died? What do we believe? Where did Lazarus go when he died? The grave. Where do other mainstream Christians think Lazarus went when he died? So how long was he in heaven for? 3 days? 4 days? 4 days maybe? I don't know. How long is it? I don't know. What's the process? How long does it take to get into heaven? And what did Jesus do? He yanked him back. It's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Lazarus is dead, in the grave, right? It's very clear in John 11. So it doesn't make any sense that he went to heaven and then got yanked back down again. It's like, Jesus, what are you doing? I had a harp, a nice white thing, and some wings, a halo. Why'd you bring me back to this? Just to die again. All right? Why did Jesus heal people? They just died again. What was the point? Why bother? Objection 3. This was not Jesus' mission. It's not why he was here. This is why he was here. Jesus didn't come to heal people. He came to die. He came to die as a perfect sacrifice on the cross. Which does what? It saves everybody. Everybody that looks at Jesus and believes in him has eternal life. So that would take care of objection 1. It's available to everyone. Jesus' healing wasn't. Not everyone got healed by Jesus. Think of the pool where the man couldn't get. This is weird to think about. There was a man at a pool, and every day the angel came and troubled the water. And the first person into the water was healed. And Jesus came by, and one man wasn't getting into the pool on time. And so Jesus healed that one man. What do you think was around this pool? Lots of sick people who were trying to get there first. How many of them did Jesus heal? That one man. This was for everyone. Everyone that wanted it. Everyone that looked up was saved. And this was forever. This is eternal salvation. Jesus' job wasn't to temporarily heal a few people. So why did he bother? Why did he heal people? Well, this is where our reasons come in. And if you didn't catch it, I'm not trying to sell these objections. I'm just testing them. There are actual objections that people have, things that people might say if you talk to them about Jesus. Well, if he was such an amazing healer, I mean, we say this to people that claim to be healers today. What are you doing in the church? Go to a hospital. If you have the power to heal people, go floor to floor. Come on. What are you doing here? Healing only your congregation. Get out there and heal everyone. We have the same kind of objections to people that claim they can heal people today. So, the 3 reasons why I believe Jesus healed people. Reason one was to fulfill the law. So how does Jesus healing people fulfill the law? Well, he talks about that in Matthew 12. So a little bit of a longer passage here. I'll read it to you. He went on from there and entered their synagogue, and a man was there with a withered hand. So we established the setting. We're in the synagogue. There's a man with a withered hand. Now, leave the man with a withered hand out for a second. Let's have a conversation about legal stuff with the legal people. I think that's kind of what we're used to doing now. Before we do anything, let's check with legal, make sure that it's okay. And they asked him, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath? So that they might accuse him. Now this is messed up. This is the opposite, right? Get the books out, and I don't think you should heal this guy because, lawsuits and insurance, and sounds like what we have to go through when we go to the hospital. We have to register. We have to, do I have a credit card on me, or I'm not going to get helped, right? He said to them, which one of you who has a sheep, if it falls into a pit on the Sabbath, will not take hold of it and lift it out? Of how much more value is a man than a sheep? So it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath. Note the big mission of Jesus is all sort of in there, right? How much more valuable is a man than a sheep? Anyway, so they have this legal discussion. And then he said to the man, no, this is neat. Stretch out your hand. What did Jesus do in this situation? He said, well, in the English, it's probably 2 words in the Greek. In the English, it's 4 words. Stretch out your hand. That's what Jesus did. Right? And the man stretched it out. The man did that. And it was restored. Healthy like the other. Jesus didn't move a muscle. He just said, stretch out your hand. The guy puts out his hand. Oh, well, it's better. So he didn't do anything. Who do you think the legal people were upset with? With Jesus for, oh, wait a second, no. Could they prove in a court of law that Jesus did anything? He didn't touch the guy. He didn't move anything. He just told the guy to stretch out his hand, and it was healed. Here's a question to think about. Who healed the man? Remember what I called the power? It's God power. Really, it's not Jesus. It's God that's healing. Are you going to arrest God and charge him with violating the Sabbath? Reason number 2. He did it to demonstrate the reality of his power. So, back to Lazarus, John chapter 11. So we have this conversation between Martha and Jesus. Now this is fun because I actually use this in one of my classes, well, my grammar class of all things. Whenever I get a chance to use the Bible in my classes. So I use this when we're doing conditionals because Martha says a conditional sentence, so I always use this sentence. Then I have my students guess what story this sentence comes from. And every once in a while, one of the students knows that it's from the story of Lazarus, which is pretty awesome. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you. That Martha and Mary were such amazing, amazing sisters. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Martha said to him, I know. This is a beautiful, beautiful expression of faith here. I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day. Where did this woman come from? She got it. We talked so much last night during the readings. We were talking about the Last Supper and the disciples just not getting it. Even at that moment, and Martha got it. What an amazing statement of faith. I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day. If you were doing a baptismal interview, and the baptismal candidate said to you, I know that I will rise again in the resurrection on the last day. It's like, okay, interview over. We're good. That's all we need to know. If you believe that, Why wouldn't we just baptize you? And that's what Martha said. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? Do you see how Jesus is answering our objections here? Right? We said, well, what was the point of healing? They were just going to die anyways. Whoever believes in me will never die. And he says, do you believe this? And she said to him, yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is coming into the world. Again, another amazing statement of her faith. This little conversation going on while Lazarus is lying in the tomb, and they're having this little talk, which is like a baptismal interview with her giving all the right answers. So he's using this opportunity to teach, to explain. But yet, if he does nothing, what would have happened if he just turned around and gone home at this point? What happens to her faith? But demonstrating the power that God had given him to bring someone back from the dead. How convincing is that? To help people understand that when he dies, God will bring him back from the dead. Because if there is no resurrection of the dead, then we are of all people most miserable, and our faith is vain. And Jesus had to demonstrate before he died that he could come back. And what did they say about that claim? That he could come back from the dead. They said, no, that's impossible. And any sane, sensible human being would say the same. Obviously. Right? If I told you, oh, this morning on my way here, I saw a dead squirrel and I brought it back to life. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Right? That's crazy. No one can do that. Right? Think about it this way. Someone was saying earlier this week that they watch a show which is set in a coronary. Is that the right word? A coroner's office. What do you call them? Morgue. Where it's all about examining dead bodies. Right? If you took one of those bodies from the morgue and put it on a table, we have a lot of really amazing science and biology and doctors and medicine today. So is there something we can do? Can we get that person back up and going again? We can do a lot of great things. We can reattach parts of the body that came off. We can create brand new robotic ones. We can heal lots and lots of problems, or at least stave off the symptoms so the person can have a decent living. We can't do that. Right? We can't create life, and we can't bring it back. That's God power. We don't have that kind of power. Jesus needed, in his ministry, to demonstrate that God power is real, and that his Father has it, and through his Father, he raised Lazarus from the dead. What did he do? What did Jesus do to raise Lazarus from the dead? Spoke. Just called him. He didn't even move the stone. Someone else did that. And out came Lazarus under his own steam. No pun intended. So reason 3. Why did Jesus heal people? Because he couldn't not. That's, I think, the number why I did them backwards. This is really reason number 1. Right? But because he couldn't not. And I think this is the strongest reason that we have in Scripture. And you look at that picture. I'm copying Mark here and looking for really cool. I don't have the artist, sorry. I wasn't looking for the Renaissance painters, just any picture that spoke to me. There was a lot of pictures of Jesus weeping at the tomb of Lazarus. And there's two verses. Verse 33 says, when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in his spirit and greatly troubled. And then the other verse that we all know, Jesus wept. And I've heard people talking about this verse, and maybe in isolation, if we didn't have the rest of the Gospels, there would be some arguments you could make that, well, he was upset about their unbelief. Probably true. He was, well, I guess that's the one I usually hear, right? He was just bothered that they didn't believe, or that he knew that they were there for the wrong reasons, paid mourners, which was a thing back then. What are they trying to do by bringing up those suggestions? They're trying to get rid of the idea that Jesus was genuinely upset that his friend died. But we know Jesus. We know this word, splanknitsomai, which means moved with compassion 9 times, referring to the feelings that Jesus had when he saw people in need. And only in Scripture ever used of Jesus under those kinds of circumstances. We know how he felt about people. We know how he loved people. So to play off the idea that Jesus wept because his friend died is not knowing Jesus, not understanding the way he felt. He was a loving, caring person. And that was how he felt about random strangers in crowds. Lazarus was one of his closest friends. He loved Lazarus. Of course he cried when his friend was dead, even though he knew that through him God would bring Lazarus back. So we're going to go back to God power. It means it's time to pull out your piece of paper. So I'm going to go through the top superpower choices that other people have made. I found a list of the top 30. And I have 6 of them up here, and there's a reason why I only put 6. So there they are. Number 1, flight. Okay, yeah, that's me. I love flying. I'm afraid of heights, which is probably why I'm so attracted to the idea of flying. I love airplanes. I love going up in really tall buildings. I don't like going up ladders. I don't like going up stairs. But I love the idea of soaring on the wings of an eagle. I love that verse in Isaiah 40. It's so beautiful. Flight, of course. Who doesn't? All the best superheroes can fly. All right? Number 2, having really good luck. That's interesting that was number 2 on the list. Being really lucky. That was number 2. Number 3, super intelligence. That's a good one. Number 4, I hope nobody wrote this one down, because I have not been able to figure out why this would be a good thing. Have you ever watched the movie or read the book, the classic, The Invisible Man? It's a horror book. It's a terrible story. The poor guy, for one thing, like, you know, when you're digesting food and everybody can see it, nobody wants to be, that's awful. Who wants to be invisible? And what good would it do? What's the good use of invisibility, right? Every time it's ever been depicted, I mean, you know, the Fantastic Four, you have the Invisible Girl. You're watching this movie going, okay, what's she going to do? How is she going to help? So they gave her shielding because she had to be useful. Those movies never worked. Bendy Man and Invisible Girl and guy that turns into rocks and the guy that's a human lighter. I mean, Who came up? I think it was Stan Lee, but what was he thinking? What was he thinking? Spider-Man is so much better. All right. So invisibility, that's always a really popular one, but not for the right reasons. I could steal anything. Oh, good for you. All right. I hope no one wrote that. This is a weird one. Eat anything. I mean, I get that. I think it's a number ability. Yes, that would be amazing. I would be like 180. That's awesome. Okay, I would probably be 300, but it's nothing like being 6'2" and 150 pounds all your life. And that goes with the next one, strength. That would be awesome too, of course. One of the greatest superpowers. You know, man of steel. Strength, that's great. All right, why did I stop at 6? Well, because I was so happy with what was number 7 on this list. I was a little bit disappointed that it was number 7, but I'm so impressed that it was number 7 at the same time. And hey, multiples of 7. So what do you think number 7 was? Healing. Why isn't that number 1 on the list? What did you write? You don't have to tell anybody. What did you write down? How many people wrote healing? Awesome, you guys are the best. Well, you other people, I'm sure you wrote something really helpful down too. Healing, number 7. Covet earnestly the best gifts. All right, let's take a look at Jesus' choice. If Jesus could have any superpower, what do you think Jesus would choose? Well, how are we going to figure that out? Because he did lots of miracles. Lots of different miracles. You ever try to think of all the different miracles Jesus did? I Googled it, and I got 60. 60 miracles that Jesus did, although it's really a smaller number than reality because some of the miracles are healed many, many, many people. So you got to sort of multiply it by hundreds. But 60 occasions that they found in this list where Jesus did miracles. And I did the same thing myself, and I tried to come up with all of his miracles, not the healing ones, all of the other ones. All right, the 60 included all of the healing miracles. All right, here we go. He turned water into wine. Probably everyone thought of that one. I got to tell you this. There's a little video. It's been done more than once because it's fun to repeat. There's a person driving a car, and they get pulled over. A police officer comes up to the window and says, they look in the car, and the person's got a paper bag. And they're like, "What's in the bag?" And they're like, "Water." And the police officer's like, "Give it here." So they hand the water in the paper bag out to the police officer. And they say, "That's not water, that's wine." And the person in the car goes, "He did it again." So it's funny, but what does it illustrate? If you can find this repeated by several people on social media, on the internet, what does that tell you? Right? And there's some other ones too. There's a water fountain prank where they have water coming out of the fountain, and then this guy dressed like Jesus walks by and he waves his hand, and then it turns to wine because they have like a pump. Yeah. So, but what does this tell you? It tells you that people, that the world out there knows, that they immediately get it. Everybody knows that Jesus turned water into wine. He's super famous as the man that turned water into wine. He walked on water. Right? Another thing that Jesus is the man that walked on water. And again, you'll see lots of things on the internet spoofing the idea of Jesus walking on the water. Super, super famous for walking on water. That's a pretty cool superpower choice. Right? And Jesus made that choice once. Right? Calming the storm. And there's a Marvel superhero named Storm, and she controls weather. Pretty cool. Again, they were trying, how are we going to use this in a movie? But yeah, Jesus did this. Maybe more than once, maybe a couple times. That's a pretty amazing superpower, to be able to control the weather. If you just had this one power, you would be the wealthiest person on the planet. Right? Multiplying fish. right? Multiplying food. More than once he did this. Money in the fish's mouth. That's a pretty cool power. Right? Anyone here like fishing? Yeah. How would you like it if it made a few bucks every time you caught one? That's pretty good. Pretty amazing power. Did it once. He cursed a fig tree, and it withered. The only destructive thing I think Jesus ever did in his entire, except for throwing over the money changers, but that was constructive in its own way. So that's it. I'm not counting the ones that he did after he got raised from the dead. That doesn't really count. But the ones he did during his ministry, that's it. That's the whole list. And I checked the list of 60 after I put together my own list, and I think I added one I missed. That's it. Those are the other choices that Jesus made about what superpower he could have with his boundless use of God's power. Those are the only other things he did. That's a very small list of choices that Jesus made about how to use God's power. And he very rarely ever did any of them. Once, twice. And if we think about it, water into wine, multiplying fish, multiplying food, money in the fish's mouth. All of those things he did out of compassion to provide for others. Walking on water. Well, Jesus didn't just walk on water. More happened. What else happened when Jesus walked on water? Peter tried and wasn't very successful, and then Jesus saved him. So again, we see that love in even these choices. The fig tree is a little bit different. It was just to make a point. But then, look at the last point I have up there. Heal, 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 heal. I filled up 2 rows. I thought about doing 3, but still, it would not cover all the healing that Jesus did. I thought I had a verse here. All right, it's going to come up. What's this topic? How can we be compassionate? Is that including the extra 4? Yes, it is. Thanks. All right, John 15:12. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. How would we know how to love one another if Jesus hadn't provided an example in his life? As I have loved you. How did Jesus show his compassion for people? By all of the choices he made with his superpower. He healed, he healed, he healed, he healed. And we're supposed to love one another as Jesus loved us. Those are very, very important words in that verse. As I have loved you. So he demonstrated and he demonstrated and he demonstrated to people how to love. Paul says in 1 Corinthians 11 verse 1, be imitators of me as I am of Christ. Shout out to my new friend that I met at the readings yesterday, Melissa, there's a story there, I won't tell it now, for reciting this chapter last night. I told her I'd shout her out. So at the very end of the chapter, we have this verse. Pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this, to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted from the world. King James Version this time, because they did a great job with this verse. This is how we can show compassion. And it's not just, here's an idea of something you can do. Pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this. That we do this, that we show compassion to the fatherless and the widow. And not just to them. So, we have to wrap up now. This is the conclusion. Oh, I did show you that. Okay, good. Our conclusion of our week together. So, I hope I have time to go through this. It won't take too long. All right. So we're going to go right over all 5 classes in detail. No, I'm kidding. 1 slide per class. We'll go through them quickly. I'm going to get you to help me. So we're going to let the Bible define love, not a lexicon, not a dictionary. For God so loved the world that... There is no greater love than someone... Love your neighbor as... And love the Lord your God with... Love. Do not hate people. Be indifferent to people. Just like people. Be afraid of people. Or be selfish. Good. Love is greater than hope and faith because love endures forever. Because God is love. That's His character. And because with His help, we can make it our character too. Forgive others if you would like to be forgiven. Don't wait and don't count. And ask for forgiveness. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Please forgive me. I love you. Show compassion. Why? Because Jesus did. Make it your superpower.
Love you too, Lord.